All right.
All right. We are podcasting, boys.
What's up? It's the last one of the season. The last album of
Well,
the season.
last album of the season, and this is a banger.
Yeah, I mean this album, like, well, first of all, we got a link of the day or whatever. But I feel like this album, um, this is super nostalgic for me. Because my dad, he has like every Adele album, so this was one of those things in elementary school that I would just hear in the car.
Yeah. No, definitely super nostalgic for me too, because like this was the stuff playing on the radio and stuff. Like this one specifically, like 19 had some stuff, but it was mainly stuff from 21 that was playing on the radio, stuff like Rolling in the Deep, Set Fire to the Rain, Someone Like You, all those songs. Like I was super familiar with them coming into this, so I was just like, okay, like I just came in with great expectations because I was like, okay, all those songs are bangers, so this better be a banger album. And
Yeah.
sure enough, it was.
I'm also just a sucker for ballads. Like, if you just look at my Spotify liked, it's mostly ballads. I don't know what it is. I'm just a sucker for ballads.
Yeah, no, this is literally Adele has done a great job of making the friend that keeps going back to their toxic ex relatable
For
with this
real.
album. That's the way that I would put it the best. Like I was just like halfway through and I was just like, dang, like this is just your one friend that keeps going back to their toxic ex despite everyone saying not to. So like
It's
yeah, like this,
literally like an emotional roller coaster. Like at the beginning, it's just like, yo, okay, we get this narrative of the breaking up, and then it's just up and down. You want him back, you don't, and at the end, it's like, oh, I'll find someone like you. Unless not, oh, I'm still in. Like it's just
you
an
said
up
the
and
title
down.
of the song.
I did.
Yeah, this album is a whole emotional roller coaster. I think definitely it very much achieves like it kind of captures the franticness of be like spiraling out of control in like a relationship. It captures that feeling very well, where you have these kind of highs and these lows, and these moments of extreme anger and extreme longing, and it's just like really cool the way that it was done. So like I really appreciate the construction of this album. While it's not really a concept album per se, it can definitely be like you can definitely kind of like catch a narrative throughout the whole thing, and you can catch a very much a vibe throughout the whole thing. But yeah, let's just jump right into it.
Rolling in the deep. So this is one of those radio hits. I feel like if you were born in the 2000s, like you've heard this several times.
Yeah, this is 100% one of the biggest songs of the 2010s as a whole. Like it kind of this album was released in 2011, so this is kind of the album that set the pace for the 2010s kind of. Not really, because like this album kind of stands out as very unique compared to everything else that came after it. Like you have all these like party hits and stuff, and like this kind of shift towards dance, and then eventually like rap towards the late 2010s.
Right.
But this album just kind of stands out as like I love how I'm still talking about the album even though we're just talking about Rolling in the Deep. This is great. Like this album as a whole is just super fascinating to me because recently I've listened to Amy Winehouse's Back to Black,
Oh yes, really
and
good.
you can see a lot of influence from that where it's just like that kind of like very much retro instrumentation where it's like again nothing around this time was like really had this super piano centric soul vibe the same way that this did, at least not to my knowledge
Oh, for
of
sure.
like
Like,
anything in the mainstream.
I love how you mentioned Amy Winehouse because both of them just have the heavy soul influences, and yeah, I definitely see a lot of Amy Winehouse inspirations on here. But as for
It,
Rolling in the Deep, I love how it starts the album with just this dum 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 dum, like, and then the four on the floor gets you like this suspense dum 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 dum.
yeah, it's super duper like one of the best builds to like the whole album where it's like yeah it builds to the climax of the song really well, but then like you just feel like okay this whole album is going to be something grand, and it definitely is. But like I love the way it sets the themes. I love the way that this album starts out angry. Like I don't know, like it's just really a really interesting way to start it considering all of the notes you get throughout it. Like it just starts out with this just fiery emotion of like bro, like what you doing? Like We could have had it all. Rolling in the deep. You had my heart and soul.
For
Finish the line.
sure. In your hand.
Oh my
But
gosh.
you paid it. I don't know what she says, but like, yeah, it definitely starts off with like fiery until she just kind of breaks down when the piano ballads come in. But yeah,
Yeah.
this is one of those hooks that's like when I was younger, I could hit it, but like, there's no way I'm hitting that. We could have had it.
Had it.
No,
We could have had it
I
all.
take it like 2 octaves down.
Rolling in the deep. Yeah, no,
Oh, and
this
that's
song.
one really cool thing about Adele is she shifts from her chest to her head voice so well. Like it, like throughout this whole album, it's just so clean how she shifts to it.
Oh yeah, that is a really good point because like a lot of times I feel like for me at least when I'm singing, I use the shift as when like I cannot sing any higher. I literally just use it because I have to. But in her case, she uses it to exemplify certain emotions where it's like I think a prime example of that is on the last track. We'll get to that later, but the way that she shifts between it on different choruses to capture different emotions. It's really cool. I really like it.
Yuppity yup. And also one last thing for this, the backgrounds are cool. That's it's just one thing, you know? Adele rolling in the
Yeah.
deep, a computer in the ocean. Anyway,
Yeah, freaking
um,
banger, man.
hopefully
All
no
right.
one gets that joke. Anyway, rumor has it. So another like four on the floor, like angry, just suspense building, dun 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 dun, dun you know.
Yeah, I
Blue.
love the. Let's just start there on the drums. I love the production of the drums on this album. They're so fuzzy, so echoey. It's like they feel so like, but at the same time they feel very much front and center. And I love the way that it's just like this kind of like almost cultish vibes that you get from the drums. It's really really cool.
Yeah, yeah. It definitely for this song, I I kind of could only describe it as like a 50s girl group Home Depot type beat. I, you know, like that pulsing Home Depot, just dun, 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 dun. I don't know why.
I am going to look on YouTube later to see if that matchup exists. And if it does not, we need to make it happen.
It probably
We
doesn't.
need we need to make Rolling in the Deep Home Depot cuz I know there's like a Justin Timberlake mashup with the Home Depot song, but I don't know about Adele. So like we'll have to look it up later and see if it exists. That'll be a bonus link if it exists. And if it doesn't, we'll probably make it happen or something. Or not.
But yeah,
We'll
the
see.
the bridge on this song though, I want to touch on.
Yo, the bridge is so
It
good.
like
I
the
love the bridge on this.
and then like all the bluesy riffs and like just the piano. Oh my gosh, it was just like I'm just like, yo, I'm in a different planet right now.
Yeah, this is a song that has a super duper interesting narrative where it kind of starts off with this like, yeah, like you broke my heart, but then it's just like I'm kind of spreading around rumors that like, yeah, you and I are still a thing. And it's just like this kind of thing and then like you get to the bridge and she's just kind of like, "Oops. I don't
Oops,
always
I
mean what I
guess.
say. I guess that this is a rumor that exists now."
But I'm not like mad at it, you know?
Yeah, it's just like such a well-written song because it's like she never explicitly says that she started it, but like with everything that is implied, you're just like, yeah, she started it. She totally started it.
Most definitely. But yeah, the guitar is really good on this, the bluesy. I love the blues elements. Always.
Yeah. This track is one of like this is one that I had heard a good amount growing up. Like I'd heard it like a few times, but it wasn't one that really stuck in my head. But then when I listened to it again, I was just like, whew, this track is like way better than I remember it being. Because like all I really remembered was just like, rumor has it, rumor has it. And it was just that over and over again. And I was like, why do people think this song is good? And then like now I listen to it, I'm just like, oh shoot, this song is really good. The freaking Home Depot type beat.
Yes, sir. 50s girl group. I definitely got some like girl group vibes. You know how there's like those girl groups with like three people and then the main person and then there's like the two harmonies. Like the hook
Yeah.
definitely gave me those vibes. Like rumor has it, rumor. But yeah,
Yeah, no, That's definitely the vibes I was getting. There's definitely a lot of vibes of like 90s R&B
Oh, for
throughout the
sure.
whole album. Like there's another track specifically that I'll talk about that when we get to it. But yeah, like that was a good catch on your part. Going to Turning Tables, like this was a track I didn't write a lot down for.
Yeah,
Like
this
it's a really great track, but like I couldn't really, like I didn't really have a lot to say about it. Like it was like, okay, like this is the first track that kind of has this sort of solo piano vibes that the rest of the album is gonna delve deeper into. And like it's really great. And I love the kind of overall feeling of like, okay, like after these first two super duper aggressive angry songs, you're just like, okay, like I'm not gonna let you hurt me anymore. Kind of a cool vibe, and then you just kind of get into the rest of the album and you're like, well, I guess that plan was out the window.
Yeah, and I love how like the first two, she's just all hot about herself, like, yeah, I'm feeling this way about the breakup, and then she just breaks down, turning tables to Do You Remember to like pretty much the rest of this, she's just like breaking
Yeah,
down.
she's just like, I'm a whole mess by the end of it. She's like, the first the first two songs are like Remain Calm. I cannot remain calm.
Yeah, yeah. But I guess as for the actual content of this, I love this is actually one of the ones that I didn't remember. This was the one track that I didn't remember on the whole album, but yeah, like you said, it's just a solid ballad, but something at the end I want to point out is the strings, and even in the whole track, the dynamic, emotional strings bring so much to the production. And at the end, it ends on this chord that's just so eerie and almost creepy. But it's like you're gonna have to like go back to that. It's just like this. It's a really weird chord, but yeah,
Yeah, I love it when things don't end on just like a major triad. Like major triads are so boring, man.
it was
Like
like almost unsettling. Like it was some horror movie type creepy string chords. But yeah,
horror movie Home Depot type beat.
horror movie 50s girl group Home Depot type beat.
Okay, we're just gonna keep adding things to the type beat, and then it's just gonna not be the title of the episode.
Yeah,
It'll just be the description or something. Like
you have to
freaking
watch it to
whatever.
get it.
Yeah, it's a reference to the episode. You have to listen to the whole thing to get it. But yeah, don't you remember? Um, really like this track. This is like the first one of like where I feel like she just absolutely breaks down in it. She's in that full like longing for her SO mode, you know? Like she's just like for like the first three it's just like okay, the first one's like super angry. The second one's just like yeah, what are you going to do about it? And then the third one's like okay, like I'm going to remain calm. And then this one's just like
Don't you remember? Like, bro, don't you
yeah.
remember? Yeah, this one's really heartbreaking to me. I don't know why. Like when she hits that "Don't you remember?" I'm just like, dang, I don't even know what she's talking about, but like I feel that. And even at the like start of the track, on that "When will I see you again?" That's like that's nostalgic for me. First of all, like that, I just feel that. But I love the country undertones on this whole track. Just the
Yeah.
guitars are really really comfy.
Yeah. No, definitely this like even thematically kind of has the vibes of a country song. You know what? You know what they say happens when you play a country song backwards?
What? I've never no what.
You get your dog back, you get your wife back, and you get your truck back. Yep. That's about country music. And this is like okay, like you just left and it's like less even like I want to see you again, which she does very clearly, but it's like I'd even settle for you remembering me at this point, which is just something that's so heartbreaking. It reminds me of the Black Parade. Shout out to the last episode. If you haven't watched it, go watch it. About the track "The Sharpest Lives," where he's just like, "When I'm gone, I want to be remembered." Like I kind of got similar vibes between those two songs, you know?
For sure. And even on this last chorus, like it modulates up. I always got to mention the modulation because it increases
Shoutouts to
that. It
modulations, bro.
increases that emotion, you know. It's just like, no, no, don't you remember? I'm like, yo, I can't sing it, but I'm feeling it, you know.
I'm feeling it now, Mr. Krabs.
I'm feeling it. But yeah, another. I guess moving on to Set Fire to the Rain. Another
Oh, I
big.
love the transition between these two tracks. It's so good. Like, it ends on this kind of like, it ends on a somewhat like resolved thing, and then you just get these piano licks that are super duper like ominous and anxious, and it's so good. I love the transition between these two tracks and like the transition in tone where it's like she's kind of settling back into that anger where she's like, oh yeah, like he kind of did screw me over here.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So yeah, this one I don't have too many notes for it, but it's just a really well written song, and it obviously I've heard it so many times because this is one of the radio hits. But just the imagery of setting fire to this rain, like the way I interpreted that is like, okay, the rain is her crying, but like now she's angry, like she's setting that on fire. She's a blaze. That's how I interpreted it. What did you
Yeah.
think?
I love the way that this track just kind of portrays love as generally dangerous. Like, I love the just kind of everything down to the instrumentation, which I cannot describe in any way but beautifully anxious. Like, I get so much secondhand anxiety from listening to the instrumentation. It's so haunting. It's so much like, oh my gosh, this is so beautiful but so sad at the same time. And it's just really good with the really sentimental lyrics on the verses and then this just kind of anger and sadness on the chorus. It's just so well written. Like I love like a lot of times the radio tracks on albums are like just radio friendly and that's the main reason they make it out and a lot of the deeper cuts are better. But I feel like for this album the radio tracks like the singles were really well picked. Like I
For
love
sure.
this track. One of my favorites on the album probably.
Yeah, the singles are really good. I think it's gonna be a little hard to choose the certified thick just because there's so many like grooves on here. But I want to move on to He Won't Go. So I am also a sucker for R&B, right? And
Oh yeah.
when I heard that hook, just that I was like, oh wait, that drum break is like funky, you
It
know?
it gave me serious Michael Jackson vibes on the first chorus, but then by the time it got to the last chorus, I was getting like major like I don't know, like Destiny Child vibes, you
Yeah,
know?
yeah, I
Like
love the R&B undertones there.
he won't go.
That drum
It's
break,
so
like,
good.
boom, 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 boom,
It's just
boom.
like it just kind of comes out of nowhere, and you're just like, why am I grooving right now?
I
Like
was not expecting that. I forgot that was on there until, I remembered it after I heard it, but I was like, yo, this is a vibe. Like,
yeah. And I really like the callback to the previous song where she's like, well, they're telling me not to go back to you, but they don't know you like I do, or at least the sides of you that I thought I knew. Like, I love that where she's just even aware of like how stupid it is to like go back, but she still is like, I'm throwing caution to the wind. I'm just gonna go back. Um,
yeah, there's,
which can really be your emotions sometime where it's just like I know this is dumb as heck, but my heart's saying go after it, so I'm just gonna yeehaw and yeet my way right into danger.
for sure. And I love how in the last one, it's just like the whole time she says, I won't go. And then at the end, it's he won't go. So I'm just like, hmm. And so I looked into some background, and apparently she's paralleling a relationship between a couple she met where one of them was like a heroin addict. And so
Mm.
that reliance that comes from feeling like you have to take care of that the partner that's relying on drugs, like that codependent partner that's like, oh, he won't go, like I'm here with this, I love you, but like you're super toxic because you're doing drugs. Like she paralleled that with her relationship with mystery person. So I found that very interesting, like that
Yeah, no,
feeling of reliance on someone, attachment.
that's definitely a really interesting parallel there. I feel like this is a perfect time for our obligatory "Don't do drugs" kid that seems to pop up in every episode.
Yeah,
Um,
especially the last one.
don't do drugs, kids. It's just don't do it. But yeah, no, this is like This is like a boppy track. It's kind of a vibe. But it's also sad, like the rest of this album. This is an extremely melodramatic album. Um, but yeah, let's go on to Take It All is next, right? Yeah.
Yeah, this one heavy soul like influences. Like I'm talking I feel like she just listened to a bunch of Aretha Franklin or something and just like I don't know, cuz these next two tracks are just soul gospel feel.
Yeah. This one is like probably the one that makes me the most sad. Like this is the biggest sad on the album where she's just like, I don't even care if you go, and I don't even care that I'm hurt. Don't bother to look back. I care so little anymore. And like that's so heartbreaking where it's just like to get to the point of like I don't even care that you hurt me. Like it's just crazy, you know? Like it's just like this it's so sad.
Yeah, and even this whole idea of like take it all, this throw my hands up like I don't care. I always think of this like when people break up, that feeling, that really awkward feeling of okay, now I have to go and give back all the stuff you gave me and we just have to like awkwardly like you got to go to each other's houses like, "Oh, that's actually mine." You know? And it's like
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah, it's just kind of like that. Like it's like I'd rather you just take everything than have to deal with those emotions again. And
Right. You
that's
got to
that's like
revisit.
totally understandable. Like it's like you don't want to have to deal with that. I really like this track though. This one might be my favorite if like this what might be my second favorite. There's one that's easily my favorite on this album. We haven't gotten to it yet, but this one's pretty good. Like I really love this one. But yeah, I'll be waiting. So this song gave me major feeling alright vibes. You know that track? I'm feeling alright.
I don't
I'm not
actually.
feeling too good
It's a soul
myself.
track.
Yeah, from like back in the '70s, I'm pretty sure. But it's a really good song. But that's kind of the vibes I got from this, where it's just kind of like this kind of I don't know this super big groovy. Like this was the one that I was gonna pick for Certified Thick.
Oh, for
On the whole
sure.
album
I think
because it just grooves so hard.
yeah, that heavily soul inspired vibe. Like if anyone is soul inspired on this whole album, it's definitely this one. Like the trumpets, the drum break, the that triumph. There's only major chords in this song. There's no minor chords.
Wait, really?
It's
That's
just
so
E
cool.
to G to D, E to G to D, like A, all major. And that's why it has this continuous movement of like triumph, you know? So I'm just like, yo, that waiting
Yo,
for you when you're ready.
yeah, that's yeah, it's just pretty darn good. Like this whole album's good. Like go listen to this album. Like not right now, but I like this is an album that I hadn't ever listened to before we talked about it on the podcast, and I'm just like, dang, like this is a really good album. Like I've listened to it like 3 times in preparation for the podcast, and like each time it gets progressively better. And so like, yeah, no, I love this album.
There
It's so good.
there is one thing on this track that's like at least lyrically that I'm just like, wow, she's petty. Cause the whole concept of this song is I'll be waiting for you. So it's like so she's still wanting him to come back and she's like, "Oh, I know this won't work out and I'll be here when you come back." It's like one of those spite type things. So I'm just like, "Dang, she's really like petty."
She's like, yeah, like you like it's like is this the one where she says like I know that he's going to choose the poison over me, or is that a different track?
I don't remember,
I
but
think it's this one. Or it might be the next one. It might be one and only. I don't remember.
it's
Like
just
I remember
like
that lyric really sticking out to me where it's just like she's like, dang, like this man's is definitely going to pick something that is objectively worse for him than me. But I'm gonna still let him
yeah.
come back.
And
Like she's so petty.
it's so petty. It's like that feeling when you go away to like follow your dreams or go to college or move away somewhere and someone's like, "You'll be back." You know how like condescending that is? Like Yeah, you'll be
Oh, it's
back.
so condescending. It's like, yeah, you don't have what it takes.
Yeah,
You'll be moved back in with your parents in like a month.
yeah, I
You
get
you
those
ain't.
vibes.
Yeah, similar vibes. And then One and Only is another track that I really like. That chorus is just it just sticks in my head so well. It's just like I just hear that. I dare you to let me be.
Yep, the
It's just
bro.
so good.
I've mentioned several times on this podcast how I'm a sucker for 6 8. We talked about it in the Beatles one. We talked about it on Continuum. Like 6 8, it's just like, well, you can obviously do 6 8 wrong, but like, yo, you hit me with a 6 8, John. Like, especially a soul 6 8. Like, sheesh.
Yeah, no, 6 8 is really good. Like I don't I think I probably feel the same way about 1 6 4 5.
Oh, the
Like it's like
progression.
yeah, like I was listening to another album and it was just like this 10-minute track of just 1 6 4 5, and I was like I never knew that I needed this. But yeah, no. It sounds like 6 8 to you is just kind of like 1 6 4 5 cuz you can do one
So
six four
good.
five wrong.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. But it's just like when they do it right, you just,
It's just
mm.
like sheesh.
Yeah. But I really love like the grittiness of the hook. Like the, I dare you to let me be. Like when she said that, like you feel that come out of her gut, you know?
Yeah, she's such an emotive singer. Like so much of this album, like I am fully convinced that this would still be a great album if it was just her on the piano and her singing. Like the production makes it really cool and I'm glad that it's there, but like I'm fully convinced this whole album could just be her and the piano and I would have been just as engaged. Cuz she's so engaging with her voice and like everything serves to set up her voice for things where it's just like the buildups where it's just like everything drops out and then she's like, dare you to let me be? And then
For
it's just like
real.
everything comes back in. Like everything serves the purpose of her emotive singing so well.
Yeah, and I think the last thing for this track that I want to point out is that the round that happens on the bridge, where it's like you got the different lyrics being sung. I don't remember exactly how it goes, but I remember a big just choir comes in. You get those heavy gospel vibes, and I'm like, yo, this is tough.
Yeah, no. Even thematically, this track is kind of sums up the whole album. Where it's just like she's like, yeah, like if I'm not taking the time to care about your past, you shouldn't either. Just like come back. Like it's like have you ever even considered that maybe it's just like he's like it's not an issue that he feels like with guilt with himself. It's just like he's just kind of a jerk. Like have you ever considered that, you know? Like
Yeah,
but like this kind of commitment that she has to the relationship and this just kind of overwhelming emotional attachment she feels is just so like I feel like it's just front and center in this track and it's like I feel like this kind of sums up the album as a whole really well.
for sure. But yeah, let's move on to Love Song. So I've heard the original song, the classic rock song by The Cure. And I like the original, but like I love what they did
Oh,
with this.
this is a cover?
Yeah, this is a cover. I didn't actually know that until I like
I didn't know
today.
that either.
I didn't
Like
know that till today.
this is like the bold as love moment where I was just like,
Jimi
but
Hendrix?
yeah, I was just like Jimi Hendrix, Mr. Hendrix himself wrote this
Yeah, The
song. That's
Cure.
dope. But like for this one, like it doesn't really stick out to me as it being aggressively different from the rest of the tracks in the same way that Bold as Love did.
Right.
Where it's like, yeah, it's like kind of like I feel like thematically it just makes so much sense to put here where it's just like she's talking about why she keeps going back, you know? And I just like, okay, this fits really well into the album. This is a this is a necessary track in the album, but the fact that it's a cover, that's really cool.
Yeah, like I considered it a solid song, you know, it had that bossa vibe, but when I found out it was a cover and how they changed it, like I feel like it just elevated it for me. Like I could see this being sung in like some jazz lounge, you know, you just sipping
You
some
like
water
jazz?
because, you know, we're underage. Water. We're
Yo,
drinking
shoutouts to
water.
water. Shoutouts to seltzer water.
Bro,
Drink
water
seltzer water, kids.
slaps. Like, you know what? I'm not gonna go on that tangent, but like, Yeah, I really like how they flipped it into some like bossa vibe. I'm a sucker for bossa also, bossa nova.
Yeah,
Um,
shout outs to bossa nova, man.
but yeah,
Shout outs to jazz as a whole. Jazz is great.
yeah, it's just
We're gonna
solid.
have to cover some jazz at some point on this podcast.
Honestly, I would be down.
Yeah, but and then we get to the last track of the album, and my favorite track of the album by a long shot, probably my favorite pop song of all time.
I think this is my favorite piano ballad ever. Like,
It's
whenever
so
this comes
good.
on, I just don't turn it off ever.
There's I never feel an urge to turn it off, and then I'm just like, and then the song finishes and I'm like, now I'm sad.
For real. It's like, and apparently this is the first pure piano ballad to top the Hot 100. Well, second was When I Was Your Man by Bruno Mars.
Yeah,
But
that makes sense. That was the other track that I thought of. That's like that song is like another one of my favorite pop songs of all time. It might not be my second, but it's way up there. But yeah, no, this one's so
but
good. I love it.
it's something about just like, I don't know why I just feel things whenever I listen to it. I don't know if it's like the arpeggiated motions of the chords, like I don't know if it's the progression, the one, I think it's one
It's
six,
1645 on the
bro.
verses, and then it's 1564 on the chorus, I'm
That
pretty sure.
yo, that 1645, man, like
1645.
I
I'm
don't know,
telling you,
bro.
it's the 50s had it right. We need to go back to everything being 1645. I swear. And the thing about the 50s is the 50s also were heavily 6/8. So we could
Bro,
go
but
back to 6/8 and 145.
we just need to cover a 50s album just so we could
We just
like
do like a
spaz out. Dum dum. But yeah, like honestly, I feel this every single time. Like when she comes in with like, I've heard that you settled down, I'm like, yo, you found a girl that you're married. I'm like, yo is really married. Like she's telling a whole story. And so she gets me into the narrative in the first verse, and then like just I'll find someone like you, bro. And I'm just like, yo, I
It's
don't even
so
know what you're
good because
talking
it's
about.
like that attitude where like I really like the chorus.
Oh yeah.
One thing that Adele does, this kind of subtle changing of the lyrics on the chorus, she does that throughout the album, where the first few times it's like someone like you, I wish nothing but the best for you too. But then when she does it like with just like she drops the piano, it's just the chords, and she
Yeah.
says nothing but the best for you, where it's like, okay, like she's been trying to mask this her whole emotional thing behind this wall of like, okay, like I'm wishing the best for your relationship, but then it's just kind of this kind of explosion of like, no, I wish the best for you specifically. I don't give a crap about her. Like she can do
Yeah.
whatever, but I want the best for you. And it's just like this kind of it's so heartbreaking because it's just like clearly the other party has moved on, but she finds herself so incapable even after all this time, all this hurt to let go. And it ends the album on the lyrics, the last lyric of the chorus, it ends it on sometimes it lasts in love, but sometimes it hurts instead. And it's just like, that's the way that you end the album with just kind of this like pain. And it's just like, I'm just like, this is so sad.
I think like the pre-chorus lyrics say it all. So I'm gonna read the pre-chorus lyrics. It says, "I hate to turn up out of the blue uninvited, but I couldn't stay away. I couldn't fight it. I had hoped to see my, I had hoped you'd see my face, and that you'd be reminded that for me, it isn't over." So she's like still clinging to this thing, you know? But like,
Yeah.
yo, I'll find someone like you, but really with a hint of like, I want you.
It's
But
like that there's never going to be another you, you know?
yeah, and I really saw some parallels with like people not only react to breakups differently, but they write about it differently. Like this reminds me of the closing track of Continuum, which
I was
was
thinking about that too. I was thinking about that too. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
that was I'm gonna find another you, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so for John, it was like, yo, I'm cocky leaving. I'm like, yo, I'm gonna, I'm because John, he had some his own stuff, but he wrote about breaking up completely differently, but like for him it was like, yo, I'm leaving, like I'm gonna find something better than you, but also with like spite. But here it's like, yo,
Yeah.
I'm like, I want you to know that I still want this, you know?
Yeah, but I even think of like Dreaming with a Broken Heart, which has a very similar energy to this track, where that song, he's just talking about this like inevitability of the goneness, where I think the main difference is in the kind of narrative love story of Continuum. He learned to accept the fact that it was over. Adele never did. And that's
Mm,
what makes 21 such a sad album.
for real. That she's still clinging on to this. Like, not to parallel to Drake, yo, but like this reminds me of his song called Marvin's Room, where he's basically like saying he's happy for the girl that she's with a nice guy, but the whole chorus is like, yo, bump that guy because you don't think of me anymore. Like he literally just says it straight out, like, yo, I don't like that guy, and you need to think of me. And I think I get that energy a little bit where it's like, I'm happy for you. You're married now. You're with a, well, I don't know if she says good person, but like, yo, you're happy, but like, yo, think of me. Even this whole thing of like, I came to visit you and in my hometown, like the whole thing is like she came to visit him. But like, yo,
Yeah.
I thought you were gonna give me some attention, you know? Like maybe we could reignite this somehow. But she knows deep down that it's not. So like that just hurts the most, you know?
Yeah. I mean like not to dive too deeply into another album, but if you listen to Hello off of 25, she still hasn't let go. Let go. That whole song is basically like Someone Like You Part 2.
Yeah, I don't
4
know if
years
it's,
later.
yeah, I'm not sure if it's the same person, but if it was, that would be insane. Like, you know?
Or
Because I know it's a,
maybe she's just found her niche in songwriting. Maybe she's just like I'm a write sad girl music for people to cry to when they're not happy that their relationship ended. Maybe she just found her niche.
like she literally wrote this album right at like fresh a day after a breakup. So I know that was the narrative of this. I don't know the narrative of 25. If she's still on this, like that's
Bro,
I
you might need a
you
psychiatrist.
might need some
Like,
help. Like
stop it. Get some help.
yeah, I doubt it's about the same person, but like still she definitely found her niche and she definitely has an amazing voice on this whole album and in general.
Oh, the singing on this album is so good. This is an album that like I had never really thought about listening to until you mentioned it last time. Like after the last recording the last podcast, you were just like, "Oh, 21," and I was like, "Oh shoot!" Like I've never actually listened to that album, and then I listened to it, and I'm just like, "This is so sad, and it's so beautiful, and it's so good," and it's just like I'm definitely gonna continue to go back to this album, and it's definitely gonna be an in my feels kind of album, and it's gonna always hit because somehow Adele always does it to you. Like regardless of how many times I've heard Someone Like You, I'm just so sad by the time that it's done every time.
Yeah, it's gonna take me a
It's
minute to find a certified thick, but yeah, I it's solid album. Like clap it up, man. Great singer, won so many Grammys. Like I don't know if you remember that one year, she won like, oh my gosh, like six in one night or something crazy,
Yeah, like Adele really just dropped 3 albums and dipped though. Like straight up.
and lost
Like her
mad
last
weight too.
it was just like 19. Okay, like this is making minor waves, but like it's not super duper mainstream. 21. It blows up. She kind of disappears for like 4 years. Drops 25. We haven't heard from her since.
And then Hello gets like a million views in like a week or something. I remember when Hello came out too. It was just like all over everywhere. Like
Yeah, it was crazy. It was like, yo, Adele's back. And then she wasn't back. She just dropped 1 album and dipped.
but yeah, hey, she's living off. Sheesh. I don't quote me on this, but I'm pretty sure Hello like has to have a billion by now. Like
I'm
it
pretty sure
has
it
to.
does. Like, I'm pretty sure it does somewhere.
It literally
Um,
has to.
but
But yeah,
yeah, I definitely think that I'll Be Waiting is probably my pick for certified thick. Those were bars. I did not mean for them to be bars, but I accidentally made bars.
yes. But that's
But
it.
yeah,
That's everything.
that's that is Adele's 21.
And that
Oh my
is the
gosh.
last album.
This is the last album of season 1 and we have made it. We have done it, boys. We have achieved 9 albums. We're not doing 10 because then the 10th episode can be a wrap up. And when we put the picture up on the site, website's coming soon, by the way. We can do it in a perfect square, and squares are awesome. So, yeah, I am so excited for next in 2 weeks when we do our wrap up episode where we're gonna go through and revisit every album and talk about like how our thoughts have kind of changed or how what we thought about them, and we're just gonna rank them all. And we're also going to rank all of the links of the day, so that'll be hype.
Ooh.
If you haven't watched the links of the day, go watch the links of the day. We have a playlist on YouTube, so you can just go click on the playlist. It's less than 30 minutes of watch time because they're all really short videos. But yeah, thanks for tuning in. Thank you guys for listening to the first season. I've had a great time.
Yeah, I've had an awesome time. It's been a learning experience and also just cool to talk to this dude.
Look at this
Look at
dude.
this dude. Oh, also, before we dip, Adele's Hello in 2017 had 2 billion views. So how much, I don't know how much it has now, but 2 billion. Like,
That's a
anyway.
lot of that's a lot of billions. That's more than 1 billion.
Yeah, it's not more than Despacito, but we're not going to talk about that. We're leaving. Bye.